Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great weekend out there so far. Here to bring you the latest information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Sunday. The main topic for today as far as active weather will be severe weather across areas of the Northeast, Ohio Valley. So we will discuss that right out the dot in the beginning of this video. Pennsylvania being the real big focal point state of severe weather today. So we will talk about that. We'll break down the rest of the lower 48 also. We continue to have this storm system that is going to bring all this severe weather over the next few days that continues to dump moisture across California and the western U.S. So after we do that, we will discuss Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday now runs a risk of severe weather. So we'll break it all down for you folks, dive into this just like we have been, and get you guys aware of what's going on. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. So, middle of the country, pretty quiet. Ridge of high pressure is dominating this area of the country. I mean, it's really spread out across most of the country, so most of the country is above average temperature-wise. You could start off a little chilly this morning, but your temperatures will probably dramatically warm up, especially for sections like the southeast. But as far as any kind of weather ongoing, we do have this wave of moisture that we were expecting that's starting to move out of sections of southern Ontario. Even got some moisture up here in Quebec. Starting to move into Quebec, but most of the heaviest moisture is definitely moving out of southern Ontario into New York State, and this will, probably create an opportunity for some rumbles of thunder, some heavy rain across western New York State, maybe even extreme northern PA. But it's what forms after this push of moisture today that's what's going to bring a threat of severe weather. So we'll speak on that here in a second. Like I said, middle of the country pretty quiet. We continue to have this spin, this upper low that will continue to kind of pick up some forward progress over the next 24 hours and eventually scoot across the southern Rockies and then eject across the middle of the country, bringing a multi-day severe weather risk across the middle of the country and then eventually into the eastern U.S. So that's what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. These red flag warnings are already up ahead of this ejecting trough and low pressure that will develop. This happens a lot this time of the year when you have these lows that will develop right off the Rockies and just a dry air gets kind of swept up under it, and then moist air is also getting pulled up against it, and we kind of have what we call a dry line that sets up. But of course, anybody on the dry side of that dry line, which is the western side, is going to remain, dry. So you're going to run the risk of a fire danger, and that's exactly why you got these red flag warnings up. Winter weather advisories continue up for areas of California, the higher elevations. Winter storm watch up for a few counties and areas in Montana ahead of a system. Winter weather advisories for a couple counties in northern Montana. The central and eastern U.S. is pretty quiet. No real active warnings or anything like that. So excessive rainfall outlook, we will watch for a risk of some flash flooding up here. Around a 5% chance of that, but not a big risk at all. Same thing for the California coastline, this green area. So let's go on and jump into the severe weather event for today. There'll be another update from the Storm Prediction Center here in probably about an hour. So some of this information might change, but I don't think it'll change that much. But, I do want to mention this. There is a risk of just a general risk of thunderstorms with the flow on top of this ridge. It's built all the way up into this area, into the northern plains and northern Rockies, but I don't think that'll be a big deal at all. This is where the most active weather is going to occur today. We have an enhanced risk that now extends from eastern Ohio, cuts right through the heart of Pennsylvania, goes all the way up to Scranton now, almost up to Binghamton, but Binghamton is in the slight risk. So this slight risk does include northern sections of West Virginia, and the marginal risk does extend all the way into western Ohio. Let's jump a little bit closer to this. I know this doesn't show towns and city names in Ohio, but if you live in eastern Ohio, south of Cleveland, to this area, you do have that enhanced risk. Just want to get a closer look at this, but there's no way to include sections of states surrounding PA. It just doesn't let me do that on the Storm Prediction Center site. But the enhanced risk does include now Pittsburgh, Johnstown, State College, Williamsport, up to Scranton, everybody in between in this orange area. Level 3 out of 5 risk. Slight, level 2 out of 5. Okay? And then the dark green, level 1 out of 5, which does include Philadelphia, Allentown is in the slight risk, and even New York City has that marginal risk. So risk of severe weather across this entire region. What is this driven off of? Well, there is a tornado risk. Tornado risk is more so on the western side of this severe weather threat. Pittsburgh, right in the heart of the 5% risk of a tornado. The brown area is that 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. The green is a 2% risk of that same criteria. So if you live in this brown area, that's the highest risk area for a tornado today. But really what's driving this enhanced risk, while they upgrade it to an enhanced risk, is a more elevated damaging wind threat. And in the red, you have that 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. So that'll be the biggest threat today. And I think you'll have one line of storms that sweep in from the north to the south. After that one line of storm sweeps through, you're pretty much done with the severe weather. And we'll show you what that will look like here in a second. Hail threat in this entire yellow area. A 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. It does include the northern panhandle of West Virginia, and then it includes a good chunk of eastern, southeastern Ohio into the western half of PA. So what will the radar look like today? Not going to dive into the ingredients of this. We've already done that for a couple videos. We're just going to dive into what a simulation of this short-range model, HRRR model, is going to show for today. So we'll start off this morning, not a whole lot going on in Ohio, and then we'll look at more so Pennsylvania and surrounding states. We get to about midday, still not really anything going on. We get to about 6 p.m., 6 p.m., still nothing. And then bang, the storms kind of fire out of nowhere south of Cleveland and around the Akron area. And then they'll drift down. And I mean, as soon as these storms develop, guys, these will pack a punch. I mean, this is this evening. It's around 7 or 8 p.m. And then they'll kind of develop in a line and try to sweep across the heart of Ohio. These could produce some small hail, could produce some damaging winds. Columbus getting down into here. And these will kind of sweep southward. I think they will lose some steam very quickly on the western side of Ohio, but just very scattered about. Nothing too alarming looking, in my opinion, based off the short-range model guidance, but they will try to drift into the northern panhandle of Florida. There we go. West Virginia, I'm good for one mix-up a video, but in the northern sections of West Virginia, this will try to drift into the region. But I can tell you, it doesn't look that alarming, but there could be some embedded spin-ups in this too. A small tornado risk right along this boundary where these storms are firing up, and these will kind of drift and then kind of just dissipate throughout the overnight hours. So we move a little bit further east, including Pennsylvania and surrounding states, and these storms could be a little bit more intense. Bang, they kind of form out of nowhere, 6, 7, 8 p.m. They form right here in Pennsylvania, and then they'll drift southward. I think Pittsburgh will get a threat for some nasty storms around kind of late evening, 9, 10 p.m. These storms are cutting right through the heart of PA. Some storms up here near Scranton. They will try to drift even into the New York City area, around 10, 11 p.m. tonight, northern New Jersey. Could be quite intense around Pittsburgh, like I said, around 9 to 11 p.m. And then they will dissipate rather quickly by the time they get to the state of Maryland, to the Delmarva area, and they might not be anything by the time they get down to like Washington, D.C. So we do need to watch out for this. If we look at the updraft velocity swath, as far as that tornado threat, indicating rotation with some of these storms, it does favor this area right here, which is what the Storm Prediction Center favors also. Kind of eastern Ohio, western PA. Watch out around the Pittsburgh area. We could have a couple tornado warnings right into here today. And there's a couple little areas showing up here a little bit further east in PA, northern New Jersey also. But that is the severe weather update for today. Let's go on and break down the rest of the lower 48 really quickly here. The rest of the southeast, very nice weather expected, even warmer than yesterday. Today's kind of the beginning, the first day of a very warm week out ahead of us, maybe the warmest week of 2024 so far. I've already promised my girls we'd bring out our little inflatable water slide for them, so they're excited about that. But anyways, getting into this afternoon, this evening, nothing going on. I mean, you're pretty much being dominated by this ridge of high pressure, so no real flow to get any storms going. We take it all the way to Monday morning, and not a drop of anything out there. The Northeast, we already talked about a good portion of you folks up here, but we will talk about this area of rain that we didn't talk about with the severe weather risk. This area of rain that you're dealing with in western New York, southern Ontario, will continue to drift throughout the rest of New York State. So you'll deal with a very rainy late morning, early afternoon in New York states, especially the northern sections of it. These showers will drift into Vermont, New Hampshire, could even get a thunderstorm into like Western Mass a little bit later today. I don't think it'll be anything too serious. Showers will continue. I mean, throughout the afternoon, definitely a kind of a sleepy Sunday afternoon across Vermont, New Hampshire, getting into Western Maine. Good afternoon for a nap after church or something. But these showers will continue. And by the time you get into this evening, you continue to get this area of showers down here in southern New England and more congealed area of rain up here in areas of northern New Hampshire and definitely across Maine. And then this rain will eventually make it all the way into Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, as we are getting into the overnight hours as this system goes on and heads on out into the Atlantic. So rainfall between now and the next about 30 hours or so. Certain areas in New York State could certainly get over a half an inch of rain, kind of just a tenth to a quarter inch of rain scattered about everybody with everywhere else. And there is certain areas that needs to watch out for a little bit more rain between what's falling, what's going to fall this morning, and what will fall later on today. So they're calling for, maybe a half an inch to an inch of rain down here in certain sections of western PA. So we'll see if that happens. But South Central U.S., a quiet day today. Nothing really going on. Get out there, enjoy that really warm weather. Getting into this evening, the overnight hours, nothing really going on. Winds will begin to pick up later on tonight, but there's really nothing going on today. North Central U.S., kind of the same thing. Any kind of rain in the Great Lakes region will clear out. Still got this flow in the upper portion of the Great Lakes region, so this might allow for some showers to sneak into the UP of Michigan off Lake Superior a little bit later this evening, but I wouldn't bet on it or anything like that. Flow is beginning to sink a little bit further south, so, waking up to some scattered showers across eastern South Dakota, eastern North Dakota, really eastern North Dakota more so, and then into Minnesota as we're waking up for a Monday morning, but not a very active weather day at all. Western U.S., this system continues to spin, starts to pick up a little bit more forward progress. We're getting into this afternoon. Some showers could drift all the way down to the Southern California coastline. Most of the moisture is up here in Northern California. Rain, higher elevation snow will continue to fall. Could get another round of thunderstorms somewhere in southern Oregon, maybe up here near the northeast Oregon, Idaho state line. Could get some thunderstorms right here in this region. We'll watch out for that. But we will continue to get this flow out here in the spin, and then maybe a little higher elevation Nevada snow also. And then we'll start to wake up tomorrow morning to a little bit more moisture in like Utah and then eastern Nevada. A little bit closer look at California today. These thunderstorms are just heavier showers and rain showers will continue to kind of drift and kind of grind down the California coastline. Like I said, more consolidated moisture up here in northern states of northern sections of California. Some of these showers will try to make it all the way down to LA, San Diego later on this afternoon. But, I don't think it'll be a big deal at all. So, temperatures, very warm. You're starting to get deeper into the year. Warmer temperatures beginning to dominate more and more. There are some signs of some kind of a cool down and once we get a little bit deeper into April. But, that's pretty normal for April. We typically, April's still a transition month for a lot of people, for most of the country, really. Except Florida. You're starting to really get into early summer type conditions down here. But, anyways, look at these temperatures, 70s and 80s, all the way up into the Great Lakes region. Starts to cool down a little bit more once you get up here in the UP. Only, temperatures locked into the 40s and 50s up here. Northeast, a chilly day north of that boundary. South of that boundary, you get into PA, Ohio. Temperature will be warm enough to fire up some thunderstorms. But, you look at the southern plains, temperatures rising into the 90s. You might get a 100-degree reading in Texas today. We'll see what happens. And warm where it's not raining, where there isn't cloud cover. The ridge is definitely pumping out the warmth all the way into the lower, the valley regions of like Washington, Oregon, Idaho. A very warm day. For Montana, Wyoming, especially the plains regions outside the higher elevations. But you are kind of tucked into a kind of a cooler pocket of air right into here just due to this cloud cover and rain here in like Nevada, California, even sections of like Oregon. So we move forward. So severe weather threat for tomorrow has changed some. There was some alarms being sounded that all the ingredients were coming together for a doozy of a severe weather event, and it still could be, but it is definitely not looking like it's going to materialize to that high-end event that some people thought it was. I kind of, pumped the brakes on sounding the alarm too much on this. And it's kind of like winter weather, things look like they're going to be, pretty bad winter storm. And then all of a sudden, it's not as bad. And the same thing with the cold air outbreaks. We're looking for cold, and it looks like it's coming from the long to the medium range. And then you get into short ranger, kind of the more short range model guidance, and, it begins to kind of not look as intense. This is the kind of the same deal with tomorrow's severe weather risk. It's going to be intense, whoever gets storms, but not everybody will get storms. So enough chatter. Enhanced risk for this kind of smaller area now includes a very small section of southern Kansas, right here in western Oklahoma, and then northern sections of Texas and part of the panhandle of Texas. That's where your highest risk of severe weather is going to be. Then you got a slight risk that extends all the way up into southern sections of South Dakota, all the way down into west central sections of Texas. And then we do have a marginal risk right in here, a little bit of a flow from the ridge that could bring some strong to severe storms into northern North Carolina and areas of Virginia. Let's focus in on this. So what is this driven off of? Well, remember I told you I thought a 10% risk of a tornado would be issued by the time I wake up this morning? Well, it's not. See, I'm wrong sometimes. But, I'm wrong a lot of times sometimes. But if that makes sense, wrong a lot of times sometimes. But, it's a good learning lesson. These are the experts from the Storm Prediction Center, and they're saying that the ingredients are not coming together quite yet for a 10% risk of a tornado. But I could see this changing. We just got to continue to get deeper in these short-range model guidance over the next 24 to 36 hours. As of now, just a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location, stretching from Nebraska all the way into sections of Texas, everybody in between. Okay. Wind threat, you don't even have a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. Just a 15% risk. So this is good news. It's good news. So in the yellow, a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And I mean good news as in this isn't, as of now, looking like it's going to materialize to that higher end event that we thought it was. But the hail threat, which has always kind of been the biggest threat, you still got a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And this is honestly what's driving the enhanced risk right now. But you got a pretty massive 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger that extends almost across all the plains. And then the black outline region with the black dashes going into it, that means you have a chance of significant severe weather, which in this case is hail, which is a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger within 25 miles in a given location. If we kind of look at what the radar could look like tomorrow in these areas, this is the latest long-range, short-range HRRR model that we have. So if we kind of look at what could unfold tomorrow, what potentially could unfold, we're going to zoom into Oklahoma and Texas first. And we know we get into the midday area, just some showers kind of ongoing in Oklahoma and northern Texas. And then we start to get late into the afternoon hours. It's like 5, 6 p.m. Central Time. And then bang, these storms kind of explode right here a couple hours before sunset. 6, 7 p.m. These storms that do form right here, kind of north and northwest of Abilene, they could produce all hazards, large hail, a tornado threat. So you want to watch these storms that are forming here in Texas. But there's not much that actually forms in Oklahoma. That enhanced risk is right into here. But these storms will pack a punch and as they kind of ride across northern Texas, and then they will dissipate pretty fast. Because I just don't think there's enough kind of oomph in the atmosphere to really keep them going into the overnight hours. But I know that you're not seeing any storms firing up here in like western Oklahoma, even the Oklahoma City region. But please be mindful that it's just a short-range model guidance, and there could easily be the initiation of storms in western Oklahoma. Models do struggle with this sometimes, but that's kind of the run right now that we have. And wherever storms do form, there's a heightened risk of a tornado. There's definitely going to be rotation with these storms, enough flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere that supports definitely some shear, definitely some kinematic flow for a tornado or two if some storms could form out here. So we move a little bit further north, we look at Kansas. We'll start off about midday. We get into this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, and all the way into the evening hours, and we get to 10, 11, 12, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You're thinking, well, where's the storms? Well, nothing might there might not be anything that forms. You start to look at about 1 a.m., you start to get a little bit of convection starting to show up here in the middle of Kansas. The Kansas is kind of one of those states where nothing might not fire. You know, the ingredients might be there for severe weather, but are you going to get any storm initiation? And you might not. And then you look at Nebraska. I definitely think you'll get storms to fire here around sunset tomorrow. It's around 8 p.m. Look at these strong to severe storms that might fire here in northern and northeastern Nebraska. It could be quite intense for a few hours as they ride north as the sun is beginning to set at this point. 10, 11 p.m., these storms will begin to drift into southeastern portions of South Dakota, and where they could continue to produce probably some large hail, but I do think these start to outrun their environment, get into a weaker thermodynamic environment, and this turn into more of an elevated nature complex of storms, meaning, you know, I don't know about the tornado threat once you get more into like South Dakota, but could be totally wrong. You could definitely get some tornadoes with this, as you do have better kinematics up here, just less in the way of thermodynamics. So we'll watch. And in fact, you know, you look at the updraft velocity swath with these storms, and we'll have to go back to this. And does show some rotation with some of these storms, guys. So, you know, you might want to watch Nebraska, southeast South Dakota with this. And then we got that risk of severe weather now that is in day 3. For Tuesday, we do have that enhanced risk up here for Des Moines, northern sections of Missouri. Slight risk that does include from northeast Texas still all the way up into southern Wisconsin, and almost includes all of Illinois and rides down the Mississippi Valley on the eastern side of this. So all we know right now is that in the red, there's a 30% chance of severe weather within 25 miles in any given location. In the black outlined area, there is a 10% risk of significant severe weather. And then we got the 15% risk of severe weather that stretches in that entire slight risk. What is this going to be driven off of? Well, I do think we'll have a higher tornado risk, in my personal opinion, for Tuesday. And it'll be right up here near, and we talked about this in last night's video, it'll be right up here near what we call a triple point, right near the surface low. So if we kind of look at the ingredients in this area, we look at that low-level jet. This is starting off Tuesday midday. Low-level jet will kind of get a secondary push right into here, but it's already ramping, you know, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. I mean, you got plenty of flow in the low levels, about a mile above our heads, 40, 50 knots, plenty of flow. And then you gotta have to watch kind of another elevated area of low-level flow, maybe like Tuesday night, that I want to watch here in Missouri and then in southern sections of Iowa. So that low-level flow is there, okay? And then you're going to have plenty of lift because you're right near the surface low for thunderstorms. What about the moisture? You look at this also, and you get into Tuesday afternoon, you got this pooling of dew points into the low 60s all the way up into Iowa, all deep, pretty far north into Illinois. And this might rise all the way into like the Illinois-Wisconsin line. And then we kind of get this secondary push of low-level moisture kind of after the sun sets Tuesday night. And I do want to watch any storms kind of Tuesday night into this region as you have this kind of, like I said, this secondary push of favorable low-level moisture that rides up the northern and central Mississippi Valley. So, and this rides all the way into Wednesday morning. Could be have ongoing severe weather Wednesday morning that's kind of sweeping across areas of the Midwest, Illinois, maybe getting into Indiana, just across the Mississippi Valley region. And then you look at the storm fuel. You know, we start to get into, Tuesday evening, Cape values, you know, got to watch, because you still need this storm fuel. You look at Tuesday afternoon, you got to watch any storms in this area. Cape levels well over 1,500 joules per kilogram in these areas. So I do want to watch Tuesday afternoon right near the surface low for some storms. And then, like I said, we just got to watch as this secondary push of moisture kind of rises up as we get into Tuesday night. You got to watch Tuesday night into Wednesday morning for sort of a secondary area of storms I want to watch that may develop right into here if we're looking at it ingredients wise. And we get all the way into Wednesday morning and you still got this area of Cape values reaching over 1,000 joules per kilogram kind of streaming across areas of Missouri and Illinois. So not to ignore my folks down here in say Arkansas and stuff like that and Texas, but I mean it's kind of the same thing. The only difference here down here, guys, is let's go on and get into Tuesday right here. We look at the Cape levels for Tuesday, is you will have a better thermodynamic environment. So if you look way down here in Texas, you got some pockets of storm of Cape reaching over 2,000 joules per kilogram, and you have this slither kind of rising up that's anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. And I do think you'll have this narrow area of kind of storm opportunity to develop in this region for sure. And you're going to have plenty of flow in this area. All right, but I will show it. We'll look at the low-level jet in this area, and we'll move it forward. Plenty of flow in the low levels to get these storms going. Plenty of wind energy. You see this more concentrated area right here in Arkansas around Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon. 40 to 50 knot low-level jet riding over this area. I do think there's going to be kind of a bimodal setup Tuesday. I think you'll have an area to the north you'll watch out for that we just broke down, and then there'll be kind of a secondary elevated region somewhere into this area down here into Arkansas and surrounding states. But we do want to watch these kind of two areas because I do think they will stand the best chance for severe weather. But, you know, we're just not in range of the short range model guidance, guys. All we can do is look at the European model, and we kind of go all the way into Tuesday. There's all those storms up here already ongoing, you know, up here in the areas of the Midwest and the plains. But, you know, you get into Tuesday afternoon, there's some storms firing in Arkansas, even some storms in northern Missouri. And then we start to get kind of deeper into Tuesday evening, and there's those other storms that I'm watching out for. Kind of Tuesday night, getting into like the wee hours of the morning, Wednesday morning. You want to watch these storms kind of cruising across areas of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. I do want to watch those storms overnight too. So I know I didn't really get a good look up here with the radar, but there's going to be no shortage of storms firing up here Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening up here in the Midwest. And then this is kind of the new area, very small. There's a couple really great weather folks up there in Kentucky that really called this early on that I follow on social media. But you want to watch southern Indiana, very small section of Ohio, and all of the western half of Kentucky, all the way down to maybe Nashville, Tennessee. 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles of the given location. They got a slight risk up. So we got to watch Wednesday too, as this will be kind of the last day for severe weather for the system as the system as a whole begins to weaken. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Probably won't have a video tonight. So I'm being ordained to be a deacon at my church. If you remember me mentioning that yesterday morning, if you tuned in. So definitely a big evening, a little nervous about it, talking in front of everybody. So asking for prayers that goes well, but I know God will lead me with that. But because of that, I probably will not have a video for tonight. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend, a wonderful Sunday, and I'll talk to you Monday morning. God bless.